We'd like to introduce our listeners to the A Different Day Radio Network. We know that you listen to podcasts or you wouldn't hear this. Have you ever thought about creating one of your own? Chances are you have. So what's stopping you?
What will I talk about?
Who's going to hear it?
How much does equipment cost?
Should I do audio and video?
Get these and more questions answered with the A Different Day Radio Network. Launching a podcast is easier than you might think, and you can have it produced professionally with the help of A Different Day Radio. Contact them at adifferentdayradio@gmail.com. A Different Day Radio, because you have something to say.
Welcome, everyone, to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it's my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our amazing Vista community. Today, I am honored to sit down with our amazing mayor, Vista Mayor Judy Ritter. Mayor Ritter has been a business owner and resident in Vista for more than 4 decades. She was elected to City Council in 1998 and elected as mayor in 2010. That's more than 23 years serving Vistans. It's amazing. Mayor Ritter is currently a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and before she retired, she owned and operated 4 fitness businesses in Vista. She's the mom to 3 grown daughters, Tracy, Tori, and Tara, and 4 grandchildren, and the whole group either attended or attends Vista schools. Talk about deep connections to Vista. So I want to welcome you, Mayor Ritter. May I call you Judy?
Call me Judy.
Everybody calls you Judy.
Everybody calls me Judy.
I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me. Before we got started, we had a little cheers with our Diet Cokes. That's something we have in common. We're fans of the Diet Coke. So I'm glad to have you here and to share a Diet Coke with you in a little chat today. I have to tell you, before we get started, one of the things, I worked for the city for a long time, and I did a number of staff presentations sitting at the city council meeting. And I have to tell you about something that has just stuck out, something you said years ago. I was at the council meeting presenting on an item. It was a little controversial in the community. It was a digital message board, a digital billboard on the freeway.
I remember.
Yeah. And people had very strong opinions about it. It was during a time where it could have generated a lot of revenue for the city. And it was just after the recession where things were questionable. There were a lot of questions.
Right.
And I remember, and even though the digital message board did not actually come to fruition for other reasons, but at the time, the council needed to vote on it. And you said, I've sat up here and made a lot of hard decisions over the last few years, particularly about our budget and employees. And, we have to make decisions in the best interest of the city. And you elected us to make those decisions and to make those hard decisions, even if they're not really popular with the people in the room right now.
Right.
And we have to make these decisions, and it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's what we were elected to do. And that really stuck with me because I really hope that all elected officials feel that way, that they need to make the tough decisions and take ownership of those things. And so I just wanted to thank you for sharing that at that time, and just to tell you that really stuck with me. It was something that I think about often. And even in my role, even though I'm not elected and I'm an employee of the Vista Chamber, and I think about, about the importance of making good decisions for everyone and the things that we do. So thank you for that.
For the entire city,
Yeah.
which changed a little bit when we just made districts.
Yes, it did.
So I still think that when people are elected, they still have to do what's best for the entire city. That's my opinion, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we, it is different with the districts, and people have
Right.
different opinions on how they should get input and feedback and
for their district.
Right,
They
exactly.
become a little more district. So I'm not sure that was the best thing for the city, but it seems to be working okay.
Yeah.
But it makes it tougher.
Yeah, I thank you for bringing that up, because the city went to districts in 2018, I think it was.
Oh gosh, I don't remember what year it was.
I think it was 2018, because we've had a couple of elections now with districts.
Right.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit. I'm going to go back in time.
Okay.
Back in time.
I got a long time to go.
back to 1977 when you were a fitness business owner in Vista. And I'm really inspired by this story because as a woman, it's hard. It's hard to be a woman in business. We have our own unique challenges. So I'm just curious, how was it for you, in the 70s, being a business owner and being kind of a mogul, really, with with your fitness businesses? And can you tell me a little bit about your experience then?
I can, but it's interesting you say that because I never thought of myself as being a woman in business. I just thought of myself as being a business owner.
Right. Okay.
But it was easier probably for me because there were women, a lot of the women in the business. The business I had, the fitness business, involved a lot of women.
Okay.
And men too, but mostly women, I'd say.
Sure.
Probably 80 to 90% women. So, but it was a struggle, but it was, and I never started it to be a business. I started it because there was a need. Mm-hmm. I started with Jazzercise in the very beginning. Judy Missett trained 8 instructors, and so we all used to sit in the back for class, and we worked off popular records. We were like a disc jockey. We flipped records and did that, and we'd kind of write the notes in the back of class, and we found out that all 8 of us needed the same record for our class. So I just told them each, well, I'll pick up everyone's records. You pay me $5 a month, and I'll pick up your music for you. So that's how it started. I didn't think of it as being a business. And then when I retired, I was buying music for instructors in probably 14 different countries.
Wow. And
over 5,500 instructors, and we shipped hundreds of thousands of, started out with records, then we transitioned to little CDs, then to CDs, and we shipped them worldwide. So but I never, when it started, it just kind of evolved into something there was a need there, and I was fulfilling a need.
That's really, really inspiring story, because I think so many ideas for businesses just start with someone saying, there's a gap here. I know how to fill it. I have an idea, and I'll just take my idea and just slowly kind of put together ideas, and then maybe you bring some more people into it, and then next thing you know, it's growing. And I think a lot of our business owners that are listening, hopefully listening to this, that really resonates with them, that, hey, there's an idea and there's a need, and I'm going to fill it, and then it just grows. And so kudos to you. And you were a parent at that time, a mom at that time. Yep. So you were navigating,
yes,
raising your family and and being, buying music for folks and having that grow. I think that's just really an inspirational story.
It started in the trunk of my car, and then into the garage, and then we had to get a regular retail location over in Carlsbad that was near this main center for Jazzercise. And then I was teaching classes in Vista. So, and I taught classes if people remember the Armory that used to be here in Vista, and I remember the guy at the Armory used to start his tank up in between our classes. All the smoke and things, but he was so proud of his tank, and so he'd go in between a class and start the tank up just so to show us, I guess. But it was always a fun thing.
Maybe he thought, there's a room full of women, I'm gonna show off my
tank.
My tank.
Yeah, right.
I love it. That's so great. So, you talk about, kind of just slowly and kind of organically growing this business over time. How do you think that experience has influenced you as a council member? I mean, you've been on the council a long time as well.
Right.
And how do you think that business perspective has influenced you?
Because I understand what it takes, the forms you have to fill out, the filings you have to do, government interference sometimes, and things you don't agree with usually, but you have to follow the rules. And so I think I understand the backgrounds of that, and payroll, what it costs to run a business, bottom line. Sometimes there isn't much left at the end of the bottom line. So I just get that because I've been there and done that. Because I taught my own Jazzercise classes. I had a center that had instructors that taught for me. I also owned the Courthouse Fitness Club, and then I had the music business. So I had employees everywhere, so I knew what payroll was and what it took to run a business. So I understand when people talk about their businesses, I understand what goes in the background of that.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned before that you were in the business that you were in, there were a lot of women around you. So you didn't really think of yourself as, I'm a woman in business. I'm just a business owner.
Right.
But did you have mentors? Did you have people that inspired you? Or, when you were learning the way, was there was there anyone, is mentorship important to you? Was it important to you in your career?
It was. First, my mother, it was inspiring because my father died when he was very young, 38, and so she was a single mom. She brought me up. She was a teacher, and so, but she forgot to tell me that there wasn't anything I couldn't do. She didn't put any restrictions on what we could, what a woman could do in life, and so, and then when I started Jazzercise, Judy Missett was very much a mentor and inspiring. She taught me never to say no. Don't say no. There's a way to do it. Just you have to figure it out. You don't take no for an answer. Just figure out how we can do this. And so that was a big learning experience for me. So she was a big mentor in my life also.
That's great. And so, go ahead.
I was saying we're still friends after all these years. So it's been a lot of years.
That's great. So do you think that philosophy of not jumping to no and finding a way to get to a yes or finding a solution, has that been something that you've applied at the council level?
It is, and I do accept that it's much more difficult at the city level because there's government regulations. When you run your own business, it's challenges that you can overcome sometimes. And at the city level, there are regulations that are made by the government and things that you have to follow. You can't change those. You have to follow those. So it's at the city level, it is it's not as creative. You can't be as creative and you can't move as quickly because things move much slower at the city level. Even though you want to have things done and say, well, let's just do this. You also have to think of, if I do this for this person, how does it affect other people? And I'm setting a precedent. If I do it for them, do I have to do it for everybody? Equally, which you do. So, and I always think if the cities make it a rule for themselves, they have that everyone. We have to do the same thing for everybody. So, that's the difference. Where in a business on your own, you don't have to necessarily do that.
Right. You can be a little more creative. And you still have rules to follow, but not the same.
Yeah, but financiers go different routes, and the city that it's more difficult to do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Absolutely. So what inspired you to run for council 23 years ago?
It was the mayor, actually, Mayor McClellan, because she said, because they're all men on the council, and the men were kind of arrogant, actually. And so I went to one of the meetings, and they were arrogant. I was the head of the Vista Town Center Association at the time, Merchant Association, and so they were just, called me lady in the white shirt, and that they were kind of arrogant. And I thought, gosh, that isn't the way to be. And they're all the men on the council. And so the mayor asked me to run, but politics were never in my idea of life ever. I was in the business. I was never thought of being in politics. So it was a whole different change of life for me. So,
well, it's funny. If they called you the lady in the white shirt, then now everyone knows Judy. Everybody knows Judy. Everyone knows your name, right?
Right.
So the joke's on them. And you've been on the council now. I mean, obviously, when you ran, you probably didn't foresee that you would eventually become mayor and that you would spend this amount of time on the council. And you've seen so many projects.
Oh yeah.
Up and down with finances. Budget constraints and times where things were flush. Can you tell me what changes in Vista have really surprised you the most over the last 20 or so years?
Oh my gosh.
There's so many. There's so many changes, and I don't know that any have surprised me. What surprised me is how long it takes to do it, to accomplish them. So because I know that like Paseo Santa Fe that we just did came through several councils, and it's nice to have councils as you go through councils have them all focus on the same goal. So, for a lot, so when the new one comes in, they get it and they focus on the same goal rather than going off onto something else. And I think that's one of the issues when I hear people talk about term limits. I think maybe some term limits, but I think if they keep short term limits, the next person comes in and they're not accountable and they don't have the same goals. And they try and change things and put their name on things, And I think that I attribute Paseo Santa Fe to a lot of different councils and a lot of different council people that were on my council. I'm like the last man standing, and our council were all like a new council, and so it's kind of interesting to look. But I mean, we've done so much with the Krikorian Sinopolis Center. That center was not there when I was first on the council. The city hall, we were in the old city hall. We have the new city hall, the sports fields, the moonlight, I'll forget something, so I don't want to say all of them. But I mean, there's so much that's been accomplished, and the business park we have like 6,000 businesses out there, I believe, and 24,000 employees.
and amazing businesses out there. And so I'm proud of that. And I'm also proud of, we had at one time our reserves, our cash reserves, our emergency reserves were zero. And so now we're up to almost 35%. So I'm proud of that. So
that's a huge accomplishment.
It's a huge accomplishment, yeah. And people don't realize how long it takes to get that to that point. Every year we put a little more to build that up. So yeah, there's a lot of good going on in our city.
Absolutely. I moved to Vista in 2003 to work for the city of Vista. And when I moved here, the entire Vista Village development was dirt. It had already been graded, and they were just starting on the project in January of 2003. And so to me, it seemed like, wow, Vista Village just came real quick, because when I got here, it was already dirt. But there were things there before. It took so much time. And I think the general public doesn't necessarily understand all that's involved with a large development like that, like Vista Village or Paseo Santa Fe, or even the business park, and how things have to come in phases. All of the things that are involved with that.
And like the Bond Center and the Pitos, and there was a community center, and you have to move everybody. You have to buy people out and move everybody, and then get the grading plans, and it takes so much to get ready to do any big project like that. True, yeah.
It's really inspiring to see, just like I said, since 2003, since I moved to town, all of the changes. But, you lived in Vista even before you were on the council. So as a resident, to see all of these changes over these years is got to be really, you should feel really proud.
I do feel really proud. I do, but I think it's interesting because a lot of times people come on the council and they want to say, I did this and I did this, and no one person does any project out there. We're all, it takes a lot of councils, a lot of council members, and a lot of staff time. I mean, when we get grants, the staff writes the grants and applies for them, and then we say, oh, we got this nice grant, but there's a lot of backup that goes into every project and everything. And so I'm just grateful for all the wonderful staff we have at the city, and all the people that back us up as a council. We don't stand alone. We have a lot of people backing us up, including our city manager and assistant city managers, and
And Vista, seems as though there's been a lot of consistent leadership. So you've been mayor for several terms. The mayor before was mayor for several terms. We've had consistency for the most part in that mayoral role, and then also as our city managers. Our city managers have been in their roles for a longer period of time, more than the average. I think the average turnover for a city manager is like 5 years or something. And, Patrick Johnson's been city manager for a long time. Rita Geldert was city manager for a long time. I think Morris Vance was city manager before Rita. Yeah. Yes. Or was there someone in between?
I think it was, I came when Rita was on. I think it was Morris maybe before Rita.
Right. So there's been this long history of consistent leadership. And I think that speaks to Vista and how we are able to move things forward, is just to have that shared vision and have that consistent, something consistent throughout, where you don't just have an entire council turnover with a new city manager. It helps to kind of weave together that vision that you spoke of and keep it moving forward. I think that's really a good thing.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Not that sometimes having a new council member or new staff people doesn't create in having change can be a good thing.
Yes,
but to have some sort of consistency. Where were we before? Where were we trying to go?
Right.
And is this path still the correct path for us?
Right.
That I think is a really good thing for Vista, and that's something I've appreciated as a resident and as a at the chamber too.
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you think about, so we already talked about some of the accomplishments that you're proud of.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit about craft breweries. So when I moved to Vista and I was working on city staff, there was a completely different approach and attitude towards alcohol uses.
Yeah.
And that has really changed over time. And why do you think that is? Is it just that organically craft brewery was a budding industry? I mean, I know the economic development department worked on that, but as a policymaker, how do you think that came to be? And was that something that was intentional, or did it happen organically?
I think it was intentional, but also organically. But I think we had some bad accidents for a few years, and I think that made everybody not want bars. And so when the breweries came in, they're not really bars; they're tasting rooms. They're not open till 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
So it's a different kind of like a downtown atmosphere rather than being open till 2 and having DUIs and things like that. I think it changed the way we did that, and so we changed the zoning in our business park, so that was intentional to allow them to be in our business park also. So I think that helped, and we were friendly toward we were friendly toward the, how can I say that? I just want to say that
You worked with them.
Yeah, we worked with them. We were friendly toward the zoning, and we wanted them to come in. We were inviting them in. So.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I think that's an important distinction to point out, is that there's multiple facets within the brewing industry. There's the manufacturing, there's the distribution, there's the tasting room component. And you're right. Breweries are not bars. They're not, it's tasting room versus a bar experience. Right. And there's a different type of feeling about that. And I'm glad that the council was open to learn about that, because it was a unique concept. When we started to first get breweries in town, I think people were like, well, what does this mean? What how does the customer experience a brewery, and what does that mean for safety? What does it mean for rules and zoning and all of that? So I think it was wise for the council to be open to realizing, this zoning doesn't work for these new types of businesses that are moving in, and we need to evaluate that and maybe make some adjustments. So that makes sense.
Right, and they don't have food. Usually they don't have food, and so they can bring it in for the restaurants, and they support the restaurants in town, which makes a huge difference. Yeah, that partnership makes a huge difference for the restaurants. It kind of save the restaurants rather, so they can bring the food in and take it out. So
yeah, that's great. That's good. Okay, so what's the most fun part of being the mayor? What do you love the most?
I like the people. I love the people, and just interacting with the people and different events, and I think that's probably the most fun part of it.
I see you out walking.
Yes.
I see you walking in downtown and walking around and getting your steps in. Do people approach you?
Sometimes they do.
Yeah. I mean, not just when you're walking, but when you're out and about.
Oh yeah, and restaurants and things, people approach me. I have a nephew that visits me. He's from Dallas, and so I was at a restaurant and somebody came in, Judy, and they were talking to me, and he says, how can you stand that? People, and I said, I love that. I love that people come and talk to me, because he's from Dallas, and apparently they don't do that there.
I'm from Dallas as well, and they don't do that.
Yeah, they don't do that there. And he likes the anonymity, or not having people know. And I like being known, and I like to see people that I know in restaurants, and I like people to come up to me and talk to me. Not always about problems. Sometimes it's nicer to be just to talk to.
Sure. But it is nice to know that people can approach you and share something that they either like or don't like, or just want to talk to you, and that they recognize you, and they know, hey, that's Judy, that's our mayor. I can go and say hi. I think
I'm always happy to talk to people. I love that. That's part of the fun part of the job.
Yeah. Okay, so on the flip side, then what's hard about it?
The hard is the decisions you have to make, because there's a lot of special interests out there, and sometimes the decisions you make are for the best of all of Vista, and not necessarily for one little area of Vista. And people, those are the hard decisions that people disagree with. Special interests mostly. And
I've noticed kind of a growing trend, unfortunately, on social media, where people just say mean things.
They sure do.
And I'm just, I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this, but I just want to bring it up. I think people should just be really kind. You're not getting rich sitting up on the council dais.
You're not.
So you're doing it because you care about the community.
Yes.
And trying to make a difference. And, I think I would like to see, and I think Vistans for the most part are kind and care about each other and take care of each other. We've seen that more than ever over these last 18 months or so.
Right.
But, I think there's, it's unfortunate when people can be mean. And so I'll just put it out there that I think people should be kind to our elected officials, even when we disagree and we think somebody needs to do a better job. There's a way to say that and to talk about that without being unkind or cruel.
I agree with you. And they sometimes they get on a rant on the social media, and I think that sometimes it's not fair. And I read it a lot of times. Things on there a lot of times aren't true. But if you go on there and try and explain it, then
it's worse.
Then it gets worse. Yes. So I just leave it alone. So
yeah. Is it hurtful?
Sometimes it's hurtful. Yeah. It is, and sometimes a lot of times it's not true. What they're saying isn't true. So, not just to me, but to all other council members. They it isn't just any one person. They pick on everybody.
Equal opportunity picking, I guess.
Right, exactly.
So do you have any advice for anybody else who's considering running for an elected position, whether that's city council, school board, any kind of elected position? Do you have any advice?
In the past, I would tell them, like, volunteering, like for one thing, take our leadership course, and it takes you all the way through all of the parts of Vista, all the different things that we do. Like
that's the Vista Leadership
Public
Academy.
Works, the Leadership Academy, that Leadership Academy that takes you out to Public Works, and it takes you to the jail, it takes you all the way through things different, our budget, all the things in Vista. I would tell you that, and then I would tell you lots of volunteers, like Kiwanis, the Community Clinic, Boys and Girls Club, Solutions for Change, Operation Hope. Just volunteer and get to know people, get a feel for the community and what the community is all about. It isn't. You can't just be with the people in your circle. That they don't give you a total example of what everybody in the community is about. You kind of have to get a balance of the whole entire city.
Right. So
I would tell them that. I used to say that, but now the elections lately have been not like that, and they've had a lot of special interests and money coming in from the unions and from the different parties that they're putting monies into the elections to get their people elected for whatever the reason is. Even the cannabis companies were putting a lot of money in the elections. So it's a kind of a different election cycle now. It's how do I get elected? It's kind of changed from volunteering and getting to know people to other things. So
and you see that even at the local level.
I do see that. Yeah, we do see it at the local level. A lot at the local level, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
And it's not supposed to be partisan at the local level, but it seems to get that way.
To become that way.
Yeah, it's become that way.
I want to talk about your family for a minute because I know you love your family. I mean, I see you out with your daughters or your grandchildren, and I know your face just lights up when you talk about them. So I'm just, as a mom, as a grandma, how does that influence you as a business owner or on the council? How does being a parent or grandparent influence you in the decisions that you make?
Oh, my kids all have opinions on everything.
Yeah.
They don't always agree with my opinions, but I listen to take their opinions in also, so, because they're adults. And so they have opinions on what should be happening in Vista and different things. So, they go from all the ages. My one daughter lives in Tokyo. Tori lives in Tokyo.
Oh,
so
okay.
But she's here a lot. She's home a lot. So then, she gets involved. And then my other daughter, one of my daughters, Tara, lives with me with my two little grandkids who are 6 and 10.
That's fun.
That's fun. Yeah, that's always fun. So I get busy with that a lot. And then one of my grandsons lives here right now. He's 20 and 29, and so I see him a lot. And then my other grandson, Riley, moved to Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he wanted to, I guess he can't afford a house here, and, they wanted to experience that. That's where his fiance is from. So we lost him to them. He's a paramedic. And so anyway, so they're all around, and we have a cottage in Michigan that we go to in the summer. All of us go, and we were all there over the 4th of July, the whole family. And so
that's wonderful.
Yeah, we ride bikes around the lake, and just it's a good place to be. And so my family, I'm very close to my family. That's probably the most important thing to me is family, and that comes at the top of the list.
That's great. I have to backtrack a bit because I missed something that I wanted to ask you about. And that was just recently the city council allocated over $26 million for the American Recovery Plan. And I can't think of a time in history where a city has had money like that, unexpected funds come in in such a way. I just am curious, how did you feel about the ability to allocate those funds to do good things in the community? What did that mean to you, as mayor?
Oh, to be able to do all those things in the community is very exciting, because usually we put things on our list, and then we have the list, and if we have funds at the end of the year, we can do some of those things. But this is like a bonus for all of us to get some things done. And I know that out on what's the name of the street out on East Vista Way, we're doing the drainage ditch and a sidewalk out there. And
oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I've been talking to that mobile home park for several years. That we've been meeting. They've been worried about that, and so.
Is that Montemar?
Yeah, Montemar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so they're so excited to have that done. So, and to be able to do that, we didn't have the money for that before. So, how exciting is that?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I know that the chamber, we're really excited to partner with the city for the small business grant program.
Yes.
$3 million infused
Yes.
right into our smallest businesses is going to be such a shot in the arm.
It's huge
for
for them.
everybody. So we're really excited to partner with the city on that. And
It's huge. It's a huge opportunity for us to fix some things that we weren't able to do before. So yeah, it's very exciting.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about that. Okay. So I sent you, I gave these to you in advance because I wanted you to be ready. So hopefully you thought about it, but I want to know a book that you think everybody should read.
You know what? And I read on vacation, my family, and we all we get together, we all bring books, and then we switch books up, So I read all different kinds of books. There's no one book that I would tell anybody to read.
There's not one that just you could read again and again or
There's
really
one
resonated?
There's one I read recently it's called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. What's his last name? McConaughey?
Oh, the actor?
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey?
Yes, thank you. That's,
Okay. Green Lights.
McConaughey, yes,
was
Green
it,
Lights.
Was that an autobiography?
Sort of, yeah, It was, but it was just good. That was a good book that I liked. I liked that one, but
I'm writing it down because I want to read it.
Yeah, but I've also gone to Audible, so I do listen to books a lot of times. But I mean, I like mysteries, murder mysteries, and I like all different kinds of books, and I read, but mostly because when I'm during the regular work week and things, I'm reading agendas,
right?
So things like that. So
Yeah.
or with real estate, I'm doing that. So I'm not reading, but when I go on vacation, it's time to read. So then I read lots of books.
So we talked about music, and really music was important in your life and in your career. So
It was.
You must be a music lover. Do you have a song that you always have to turn up, maybe when you have to jazzercise
No, not
to?
one, but I like old time rock and roll.
Okay.
so I listen to 50s and 60s rock and roll.
That's great. I love it. I love it. That's so fun. What is something that inspires you?
Something that inspires me. I just think people inspire me. That just different things that people do inspire me. I'm just grateful to be able to be around different people's lives, successful people, and different ways. And everybody does it differently. And I'm just inspired by the intelligence of people and all the ideas that they're coming up with that are new. And so those are the things that inspire me.
I love it. I like it. I like new ideas too. I get excited about creativity. It's cool. And sometimes I wish I were more creative. I wish I'd thought of that.
And I'm just amazed and people are so smart. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, people are so intelligent and they come up with these new ideas. And I'm just inspired by that.
And we have so many people living and working in Vista that are so creative and smart. It's amazing.
Yes.
Knocks my socks off when I go to the business park and I meet these businesses or even downtown or anywhere, and I meet these businesses and their ideas and what they're doing. I'm
the
with
businesses you had. I would go out to the business park, and when we interview the businesses to for retention, to see what we can do to help them, and I'm just blown away by the different things they do. I mean, they are just amazing, our businesses. So
it really is amazing. It is. Okay. Speaking of amazing businesses, is there any business that you want to give a little shout out to?
Taco Don Pablo's.
Tacos Don Paco?
No, Taco Don Pablo.
Pablo. Oh, where
Taco
is it?
Don Pablo. He's behind Vaughn's by Harbor Freight, behind Harbor Freight.
Oh,
little
yes.
strip center there. It's a little Mexican restaurant back there. Great.
So good.
Great cheese enchiladas, tacos. Yeah.
They have a thing called a mulita, maybe, where it's like a corn tortilla quesadilla.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
So you go there too?
I do.
Okay. But it's just a small kind of hidden.
It
A lot of
is.
people don't know about it.
It
so,
is.
yeah.
It is. That's a good one. It's a good one. Well, Judy, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you sitting down with me and, just having a chat with me on the podcast. We're so excited to launch this podcast and just grateful for your participation. And thank you for all that you've done to serve Vistans over these years. And
I am just honored I'm honored to be the mayor and honored to have been able to do this for so many years. I have one more year and then I'm done, but I'm going out on a good note.
So not going for another term.
No, not going for another term.
Okay.
I will be done. I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll do something. I'll probably sell more real estate.
There you go. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers impacting Vista, California. To hear the latest from Velocity, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization which serves as a catalyst to business growth. Visit us online at vistachamber.org.
This was a production of A Different Day Radio.